Okay, ready for a deep dive into something kind of wild?
Let's do it.
So, picture this. Scientists creating embryos, but not the old-fashioned way.
Not the birds and the bees way, no.
Right, none of that. We're talking about embryos grown entirely from stem cells. Synthetic embryos.
And it's not science fiction anymore. It's happening right now.
It's like, boom, future's here.
It's moving so fast, really.
Mm-hmm.
Just a couple years back, 2022, 2023, some big breakthroughs, especially out of Israel. They made these synthetic embryos, both with mouse and human cells.
And this isn't just some cells clumped together. We're talking like beating hearts, the start of a brain, the same structures that in a typical pregnancy would become a fetus.
Exactly. So you can see why everyone's, well, there's a lot of buzz. And that's what we're diving into today. Not just the how, but the why.
The why now and the why should we even...
The ethics, for sure. Can't shy away from that, especially for a place like Singapore. They're right in the thick of it.
Which is wild to think about. So on the one hand, scientists are saying this could be huge for understanding birth defects.
Huge. Think about it. We could watch the embryo develop like never before, see exactly when and why things go wrong. It could totally change how we think about prenatal care, maybe even treat these conditions before birth. Who knows?
So many unknowns, but that's what makes it exciting, right? It's like peeking into this black box of early development.
Exactly. And it's not just birth defects. We could grow organs. Can you imagine? A world without organ shortages, without the risk of rejection. It could revolutionize transplants.
That's mind-blowing, solving one of the biggest problems in medicine just like that.
And hold on, there's more. Think about drug testing. Imagine being able to test new medications on synthetic embryos instead of using animals or risking the health of human embryos. It's a game changer.
Talk about a win-win. But
you knew it was coming.
There's always a but, right?
Of course. As of right now, today, no one's gotten a synthetic embryo, animal or human, to actually develop all the way.
So the big question mark is, will they ever be able to?
It's more a matter of when. And that's why this ethical debate, especially in places like Singapore, it's so important to have right now.
So we keep hearing about Singapore. Why is that? Like this tech, it could impact everyone, right?
It totally could. This paper, though, it focuses on Singapore for a few reasons, and they're pretty interesting. For one, they're like superstars in the biomedical research world. They pour tons of money into it.
So they're going to be the first to like really dive into this, if anyone is.
Exactly. Plus, don't forget their birth rate. It's really low.
Right. Any tech that could change how many babies people have, that's got to be huge for them.
Huge, but it gets even more complex. Singapore, they've got this strong Confucian culture. Family's a really big deal, and I mean really direct family, bloodlines, all that. It's woven into everything, even legal decisions.
So you're saying synthetic embryos, they kind of mess with that whole idea, huh?
They throw a real curveball, yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine you could have a kid with genes from just one parent. It challenges the whole two-person sperm meets egg kind of foundation that a lot of these cultural and legal ideas are built on.
And isn't that kind of what this paper's getting at? Like, they say IVF, even though it's outside the body, it's still closer to Singapore's values because it's still sperm and egg?
Exactly. And it's not just some theoretical thing. The paper talks about how Singaporean courts, they've used those blood ties like as the deciding factor in family cases. So we're not talking hypotheticals here. This tech could shake up their whole system.
It's like this tech is making us rethink what family even means, you know? It's not just about the culture, though, is it? There's bigger ethical stuff to think about.
Oh, absolutely. This paper dives right into it. Like, for starters, the religious side. You can't ignore that, especially in Singapore, right? Lots of different faiths there. And for many, this whole creating life without, well, conception is a huge deal. It challenges some pretty fundamental beliefs about where life comes from.
They see it as messing with the natural order of things, yeah.
Exactly. And even for folks who aren't coming at it from a religious angle, there's, I don't know, it can feel kind of icky, right? Like the paper even mentions using this to recreate, well, a deceased loved one. Parents lose a child, and now they could theoretically have another one with the exact same genes.
Whoa, yeah. That's getting into some serious ethical gray areas.
For sure. Like, did the person who died, even a child, did they have any say in this? And are we really recreating them? Or just a copy of their DNA? It makes you question what makes a person unique, you know?
Big questions, and then there's the whole designer baby thing we always hear about. If we can make embryos from scratch, tweak their genes, are we going to end up in a world where parents are placing an order for their perfect kid?
Right, and this paper goes there. Will this tech make inequality even worse? Only rich people choosing their kids' traits. It's a valid concern. We've got to figure out as a society where the line is.
So where do we go from here? This paper seems to be saying, nope, ban it, at least when it comes to actually having babies.
That's their stance, yeah. They say we need hard limits or we're heading down a slippery slope, but they're not against all the science. They talk about IVG, making sperm and eggs from other cells, which they seem to think is maybe a better way to tackle things like infertility.
So it's about being careful, not just hitting the brakes on everything.
Exactly. And this is where it gets even more interesting, I think. With synthetic embryos, we could screen millions of stem cells. Imagine catching every little gene editing mistake. So does that make designer babies okay then? At least for preventing really bad diseases. Or does it just make the whole choosing traits thing even more ethically messy?
It's like the closer we get, the more questions pop up. There's no easy answers here, are there? What should our listeners be taking away from all of this?
To me, it's that this tech, it's not just about science anymore. It's about what it means to be human, to have a family. We all need to be part of this conversation, not just the folks in the labs.
It's a conversation that's just getting started. Hopefully this deep dive has given everyone something to think about, maybe spark some interesting debates at home. Thanks for joining us on this one, and we'd love to hear your thoughts, as always.